Hello, my name is Roy Bennett, and I'll be showing you the iterations that I made over this past week. Starting with the tutorial level, I took the instructor's feedback and added some additional prompts to get the player moving. So here you get that first initial prompt for the player to use the left mouse button to start moving. And here, as the player continues to move, they also get a movement tip that advises them to click and hold the left mouse button for continuous movement so that they aren't continually clicking the entire time throughout the game. In addition to the work I did on the tutorial level, implementing the instructor's feedback, I also made some iterations on the Earth Dungeon. Inside the Earth Dungeon, I did a lot of iteration on the environment, as well as introducing some new mechanics in our game to the player. So this is a gap that the player has to cut across, but before then they are prompted with some narrative here, and they're introduced to using the alternate attack ability, where they have to right-click the mouse to fire projectiles. So they can kind of use this as target practice from a safe distance, attacking these minions and killing them using the right-click projectile attack ability. Alongside the attack ability being introduced, I also added some extra skeletons to the level to keep the player attacking and doing something every couple of seconds. So there's never a lull moment in the level that the player doesn't know what to do or where to go. Some game balancing was done on these minions so that they are more susceptible to the alternate attack ability, so the player can continue to practice that on them and also use their melee attack to take out skeletons quickly. So essentially the alternate attack ability does more damage than meleeing on the minions. After the player defeats the boss in this level, they can then pick up the Earth Gem, which they have a little tutorial on how these Earth Gems work. So after this little bit of narrative, they are then prompted about the elemental gems and that they can use the mouse scroll wheel to choose between the two, and then use the alternate attack element ability.
Mike Hughes here from Team Locust, and I want to show you the things I've been working on this week with the Shadow Dungeon. I've also been working on our data persistence system so that we can move our stats and our data between scenes and back to the main menu and so on. Let me go ahead and jump right into the level and show you what we've done. Now I do have a couple hotkeys set up for us to make this a lot easier. One will go ahead and give us experience. If you get enough experience, you will gain a level. And the other one, if we go into our debug, we can go ahead and unlock all of our elements right away. I also set up a hotkey to store the data. And right now, if you hit a checkpoint, it will store the data. If you leave the level, it will store the data, and so on. Let's go ahead and jump back to the main menu so you can see this work. And as you zone in, it grabs the data and reloads it to you. So that's that. Let me go ahead and show you the level and what we've done. Each one of these elements can only be hit by, are immune to their own type. So wind cannot hurt wind. As you can see, the projectiles all have a little effect now from edit. Now, just like I showed you last week, we were going to put a river here and make it where you can freeze the river. As you can see, that's how it's done right there. You just hit it with your ice elemental or ice projectile and it'll freeze the river, allowing you to be able to walk on that river. It throws a boulder instead of a little particle. And up here, we actually have a boss fight now. You can enter the boss fight. Once you're inside, it will not let you exit until you beat the boss. As this boss gets down to 75, 50, and 25%, it will spawn minions. You cannot do any damage to the boss until those minions are dead. It will spawn a random set of minions, so you don't know which ones are going to spawn, so you have to, stay on your toes as to which projectiles you'll be needing.
Hello, my name is Jessica Vassos, and I'll be doing the walkthrough for the fire level. So mostly we've basically been just testing everything out, making sure everything runs smoothly. And right here you can also tell that I edited the ground to make it different so it looks more like a lava. Here too I made most of the rocks black so it kind of matched more better with the visual effects. I added these crystals too, so once you hit them, they explode like some of the other levels already have. For example, I use those crystals to block walkways, like right here, where there's a coin hidden with the enemy right there. It's another thing I just added into it. So the particles thing right here, particles in the last one I changed out because they weren't really working out. So I ended up putting these crystals to block the walkway, so the player has to hit them to get through. Like for example right here again, I used those to block the doorway to get to the boss level. So the player will have to do that, and then there's a trigger and it's gonna knock down a bunch of rubble right there, so the player can't get back through. And then right here is the boss. So once you kill the boss, it's going to drop a little collectible that you have to get, and it's going to unlock the fire ability right there. We're starting to get that complete. And the player will be able to shoot fireballs, and yeah. And then after that, it will unlock the portal.
For the ice dungeon, changes I've made are post-processing effects to the camera. That way the colors kind of pop out and provide some very nice visual effects. I also changed some enemies to make it a little easier to fight against them. I've also expanded the area, so it won't be as direct as before. I've also included walls, so you can't see into oblivion. I've also made sure that Wisp will go to these levers to tell you, hey, this is something important, you need to interact with it. Most of my time has been spent just trying to fix bugs and make sure everything runs smoothly, and just trying to expand on the level as much as I can. I've also created these freezing blocks where if you touch them, you will freeze, which isn't ideal when you're facing all these enemies. But you move pretty fast. Just gotta be wary. And then the rest of the level is pretty much the same. So that's kind of it for the ice dungeon.
I'm Josephine Dolan, and this is the wind dungeon. Coins is one of the things I added in my level. My level previously did not have any coins in it. I added some new dialogue to let the player know that the shift ability will not be available in this dungeon. The player was able to shift across gaps that I didn't want them to, and it acted funky in the wind area due to me manipulating the values on the rigid body, so it had to go. This section is also new. Instead of just walking into the next wind area, there is a skeleton fight. Here I will be adding a lot more in the future, but I only had time to add that for now. And after they beat the skeletons, then they move on to the second wind area. Here is pretty much the same as before, where you have to summon the elemental and it will freeze the water, but it's using the new pet system, and it bypasses the need for the 30% health that it normally would, and this is the end where you just fight the boss and collect the coin as usual.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Hadley. We'll be going into the village level. So this week I worked on mostly just on this level and functionality within the level. I did the terrain painting. We had a different grass texture, so I had to go and scour for a different grass texture to make it look a little cemetery near the cathedral, forests, and a gate where you'll be leaving at some point once this level is